Good evening, everyone. I have a loud voice. I'm going to shout at you for a little bit. Welcome to the Mignone Center for Career Success. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here. A huge thanks to our partners at the Salata Institute for Climate and Sustainability. If we have not yet had the pleasure of meeting, I'm Caroline Rendy. I serve as our Associate Director for Graduate Career Exploration, and I work with our master's and our PhD students, as well as our GSAS alumni, interested in leveraging their skills and talents beyond the academy or in some academic adjacent fields. My wonderful colleague Laura Stark, our Associate Director for Academic Careers, works with those pursuing postdocs, tenure track positions, and academic opportunities. Please enjoy some dinner and keep enjoying some dinner if you would like. We are going to hear from a wonderful panel in a moment. I'm going to do a few more introductory remarks, and then you'll have an opportunity to network more, connect, and we will just need to wrap up sort of around 7:30. If that's possible. The goal of our Careers in Climate Action speaker series, again to credit the Salata Institute, is to enable students and alumni interested in careers in this space to learn about the individual journeys of leading practitioners, understand the skills necessary to be successful in these fields, and gain advice to help you with your careers along the way. At the Mignone Center, in partnership with the Salata Institute and in close collaboration with our partners in employer engagement, we're able to bring amazing employers like Alexander, Andreas, and Charles to connect with you directly. So tonight we'll explore scientific creativity and tangible career opportunities in Denmark and how your next research step can take you to the heart of Europe's green and bioscience transition. It is my honor to welcome our friends Alexander from Science Hub of Denmark, Andreas for the Center for Biosolutions at the Technical University of Denmark, and last but certainly not least, Charles with Imaginative Science. Please join me in welcoming our brilliant and generous friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Charles Moore, and in line with what Caroline was just saying, the three of us are going to talk individually. We're going to tell you how we got into the work that we do. We're going to describe what we do now, including opportunities for collaboration with you. And that will then leave space for E. coli itself to come in. And for the first time in the history of Harvard University, E. coli will address you all and make some statements that we hope inspire the human race to work with it for a sustainable future. All right.
Thank you, Charles. So I have about 15 minutes because I kind of want to leave the space for you guys. E. coli, I'm very excited to hear about that. My colleague Sarah, I'm going to tell you because sometimes I speak a little bit too much. So you let me know. Anyways, my name is Alexander Watts. I am half Danish, half English. Raised in Mexico, also lived in the US, in Asia. I come with a background in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. About 9 years ago, after 21 years abroad, I was newly married, living in Mexico, working at the embassy, thinking about where do I want to take the next step in my careers, where do I want to live and establish myself and my family. We looked at the US, we looked at Mexico, we looked at many places in Europe. Decided, well, what about Denmark? I brought her in the heart of summer, and it was beautiful. It was sunshine. The sun was shining, and everyone loved it. I said, okay, now let's do it in January or February. And then we said, okay, we still like it. Let's come back. Let's move to Denmark. It ended up being, for us personally, I dare speak for her as well, that the right decision. We absolutely love it. The picture there is actually on our first day in the airport, having been a couple of hours in the country. And it's been wonderful for us. We've had 2 wonderful children. And one of the things that I truly love about Denmark is the work-life balance, the opportunity it gives myself as a father, but also as a person with many interests outside of work. And that one of those is football. But it gives you those opportunities to be yourself, to be who you want to be. Also, the fact that sustainability is just an integral part of it. And living in Denmark is something that I personally also enjoy. Yes. So, I'm sort of just going to put a couple of words of actually why we're here, why I'm here. As head of Science Hub Denmark, it is a 3-year project. We're actually coming towards the end of it, but we've been asked to extend for 3 more years. Science Hub Denmark is a collaboration between Danish universities and 3 private foundations in Denmark. The Lundbeck, Novo Nordisk and Willem foundations. These 3 private foundations fund a lot of research in Denmark. Partly a lot in DTU as well. So in Denmark, a lot of the research is either funded through through the government, EU, or private foundations. What these foundations have sort of started to realize quite a few years back is that in Denmark, we need more talented people. We just don't have enough. We have unemployment rate of 2.8, 2.9%. We desperately need more talented people. So they asked us, together with the universities, to come up with a project that can help showcase, build more bridges with international communities and showcase the opportunities we have. The focus initially was Power to X, neuroscience, quantum and biosolutions. Biosolutions is also why we're here today. Concretely, what it is we do. Well, obviously, we set up opportunities like this, but we also have a website that some of you might have already seen. But on this website, we actually post concretely job opportunities. If you're interested, and I presume you're interested in biosolutions, you just click on biosolutions. You can see all of the open positions, PhDs and above, in Denmark, all in English. Doesn't require Danish. I would recommend, if you move to Denmark, that you learn Danish, but it is not necessary for the jobs. It is, however, offered free of charge in Denmark for every international. So yes, I would encourage you. My wife has learned it as well. It is possible. You can attest to that as an international. I'll give you an example of how it looks like. You just apply directly there. However, if it is you haven't found your dream job here, also reach out to me. Maybe I might be able to set you and connect you with some of the ecosystem in Denmark. Obviously, I'm sure Andreas will also be open that you reach out to him. But please reach out. I also see this today as an opportunity to connect, as a sort of open door, offer you to write to me, and then we'll gladly continue the conversation. Some of you might also be interested in industry. Another website here. I'm just putting it up here so we can share with you the slides afterwards. But here you will find open industry positions, mainly within STEM areas, life science, engineering, and tech. So these are the main areas. The same thing is the language will always be in English. Most companies in Denmark, English is the working language. So my background in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, even governmental job, it was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, English is the business language. Is there any questions? If there comes questions along, just feel free to ask. But as part of the project, we went around and asked a lot of international researchers in Denmark, and we asked them, so tell us about how it is to be an international researcher in Denmark. What are some of the characteristics if you were to share the message to other international researchers about how it is to be in Denmark? They told us, among the things, that it's just top-notch, world-class. It's the institutes, the labs, what you get to work with is absolutely top-notch. Denmark is a very small country. We are 6 million people. That's it. Compare that to here in Massachusetts. It takes 3 hours. You've crossed the whole country, north to south, east to west, more or less. However, being small also has many advantages. It means that industry is extremely close to the university. And I'm sure you will also very much agree with that in Denmark, they hope that your research gets out from the lab, They hope that you very quickly start to have an impact in the real world. So that is certainly, and then they also want you to work closely with industry if you have to get it out there. So that combination, that collaboration with industry, I think is one of the things that really is something that we heard numerous times that they asked us to highlight. Flat hierarchy, definitely as well. And that is not only at the university. Obviously, it's great in the universities that you won't have your PIs or your top management telling you very strongly how to do your research. You have a lot of freedom of where you want to take it, your research, but it's in all parts of life. It's in school. You will never say sir, ma'am to anyone. You just first name. It's perfectly normal that if you're sitting to lunch, you might have the CEO sitting next to you. That's completely normal. They won't be sitting off at a far off table that's only for management. I said freedom. Of course, the freedom in research, but also the freedom outside. The freedom to be who you want to be. If that is your hobby is football, your hobby is kite surfing, your hobby is whatever it is, you will have the freedom and you will have time. When we have, as part of our delegation here, we also have a couple of HR people from some of the universities, Danish universities, and I asked one of them previously, Mark. I said, Mark, so what's the first thing you tell internationals who move to Denmark, to international research? He says, find a hobby. Because you will have free time, and it's an important part of it. So make sure you also find something outside. And focus on sustainability. That's obviously that's just an integral part of Denmark. I think on climate change solutions, carbon reduction, I think Denmark is definitely among the most ambitious countries out there. And it really is. It's fought in through just about everything. It's something we truly believe. So I'm going to jump through very quickly some rankings. It is true that supposedly we're very, very happy. And I do believe that work-life balance is a big part of it. Generally, if you look at it, it's generally all the countries with the very good work-life balance who normally come in the top 4, or the Nordics. We look at livability. This takes in many factors. It takes in security, transport, healthcare, education. Copenhagen comes in as the most livable city in the world. I'm sure some of the other cities in Denmark would also make it. However, I think they're too small to even get in the ranking, Aarhus being one of them. And it is true also safety is a big part of that livability. It is true that Denmark is a very safe country. You might have heard some of the stories. Have you ever heard about the story of the prams? That people actually put their kids outside to sleep in the prams. You know, there was a story here it must have been 10 years ago in New York. A Danish woman had come over, put her kids to sleep. She had gone to the restaurant and put her kid outside on the street and to sleep, and then she had gone inside, and they called the police on her because you just left your kid out there. But that's a natural thing to do in Denmark. Our children, they slept outside in the prams. Both of them did. We live up on the first, second floor. They would sleep out in the front yard, right out to the street, no lock on the door, and they would sleep out there with just a baby alarm. And that was all winter also. They sleep very well in the winter outside. So they do. They do. It's all, obviously we can't have a very high standard of living in Denmark. We don't have much natural resources. We obviously can't have a very high standard of living if we are all running around in our free time doing whatever. We also work. Yeah. In that work, it also means that it has expectations. We're ambitious. We want to be among the world leaders, specifically within climate change, renewable energy, life sciences. So there are expectations when you come to work. Productivity, efficiency is very high because we do expect that when you do work, you deliver. Exactly how when you come to work or when you leave, that's not that important. It's not. The important is the results you deliver. I think, I'm actually going to more or less leave it here. I'm just going to quickly say that if you're interested, the whole Danish delegation, we will be at the MIT European Career Fair on Saturday. You're welcome to come by, but we will also be having a little networking event tomorrow at the Foundry. tomorrow evening. If you're interested, just come by and let me know, and I can give you the link. But I think I will finish off by just saying, reach out to me if you would like. Ask me about how it is to move to Denmark. Ask me about career opportunities, how it is to move with children, with dogs. I've done it. I've done it all. Yeah. Oh, you've done it with cats. Yeah. But please, I think with that I'll say thank you, and then I'll give the word to you guys. I'm looking forward to E. coli. This is the only time I've ever said that.
Yeah. So I'm Andreas, and I'm really happy that I have a chance to meet you all. Actually, I lived in Somerville a couple of years, and also down South Shore in Cohasset. Very nice, but it was a long commute. So I know you are all in sustainability, and I guess you all being young folks, the sense of urgency is maybe a bit more present. So, I grew up in the Cold War in Germany, different times, Generation X, and I just saw this photo and I needed to photograph that. It actually reads in Danish, times are changing, right? And that's actually true for us who grew up in Europe during a Cold War. Now we are living in a different time, and there's also times that's changing. So I give that a little provocative thing, and we come to that later when we speak about imaginative science, because I felt, as this is a career event, you might be also a bit curious on how I got there, because when I started my work, I was for sure not thinking about doing what I'm doing. I am a bit different walk. So let me put a few words here. So who am I? This is a beautiful country of Denmark, and I have been moving there a couple of years ago. I actually have been a professional expat. I moved 15 times in my life, and Denmark is the longest stay I've ever had in my life. So that speaks something. And yes, there was COVID in between. That also got me a bit grounded, I agree. So I have a passion for nature and life. I'm actually a botanist by training. Before that, I was doing surgery on chicken embryos. After that, I became a process engineer and built large-scale chemical plants, business developer. Then I moved to university and made startups, helped people to spin out companies. And during these 20 years, I somehow got hooked up by sustainability and all this stuff that we care about, because I've seen that at different places in the world. So I spent a bit of time in looking into these type of things, and to follow up a little bit on what Alex started us with. Denmark is a small country, yeah, and I would consider it mostly wind and sea and people. So it's a lot of wind there. And I'm not sure if you guys are into bio or other types of clean tech. Certainly wind energy is our prime, right? We do a lot of wind energy, right? We are out-competing even the Swedes, right? And they do a lot as well. And that speaks something for the country, right? Making use of the resources you have, but there is not so much else, as you said. It's about people also. There's farmland, so you have this combination of energy and people, and trying to make use out of the resources that you have. And that actually shaped the country and also got me very, very much inspired on working there. So yeah, I mean, if you don't know, because in America you sometimes need to say, it's actually this little tip on top of Germany, right? That's Denmark, right, in this little corner here. Very small archipelago, actually over 400 islands. So the main island where it's actually an island, so it's a lot of islands. So you almost always live by the sea, which is nice here, but I feel for a lot of people it's actually a privilege. I feel it's a privilege to live by the sea. Yeah, so just switching over to that. So yeah, here another comparison, but you get an idea, right? It's easy to get around. It's technically easy to get everywhere around in Europe. If you haven't been there, don't get scared. It's actually very easy to see different cultures and different civilization hotspots all around. There is a greater ecosystem around the city of Copenhagen. Copenhagen is the capital, but right on the other side starts Sweden, right on the other side of the Sund. And there is a large biotech ecosystem, actually the strongest we have in Europe. And if it comes to the space that I'm working at, which we call Biosolutions, I come to that in a moment, so non-medical biotech, we're also extremely strong. Has a lot to do with the food nation that Denmark is, and generally food culture we have in the Nordic countries. You might know, you might not know, the best restaurants in the world are not in Paris, actually in Copenhagen. Right? It's a bit crazy cuisine, if you ask me. It's a bit like ants crawling around and duck heads and so on. Yeah, but hey, right? Yeah, I know, it's wild. So, I want to give you some inspiration about biosolutions and why that is something I care about. It's a Danish term. Have you ever heard this, biosolutions? No, right? You heard bioeconomy maybe, or biomanufacturing, or things like that. I think the Danes came up with this name, despite it's English. It actually works well. I'm an engineer and think like solutions means there's a problem that we fix, right? So why not using bio in some way to fix the problems we have out there? And get the bridge a little bit. Of course, there's a lot of problems we have that are solvable through biology. It's actually a European strength. A lot of countries are moving on that, that's true, but Europe has a very deep and long tradition in using biology, fermentation technologies and other types. A lot of food and things that we consume are based on that, obviously. But converting that know-how also into products, like beer brewing and a lot of other things, right? There's good beer in Europe. But we all do that all over the world. That is, of course, very deeply rooted also in a society there. So you can build on that. And as we spoke earlier, Denmark needs to make use of its resources. So people's ingenuity and innovation mindset, design thinking, these type of topics come together. So how do we connect them? Maybe biology with problems and technologies out there. When I think of biosolutions, it's mostly an enabling technology. So imagine you have an existing process, making a car, making a type of a chemical, a lubricant, a food, etc. We all have that since decades. But we know they are in many cases not sustainable. And replacing that with a new process, come on, that's not so difficult. Most of these things have been developed 60s, 70s, 80s. But is it good enough? I'm not sure if you are comfortable or have been taught about absolute sustainability. Have you heard that before? Because you are people in sustainability. Absolute sustainability has been pioneered in the Nordics, Denmark, Sweden, for example. And it's not only thinking about making something sustainable, because that's often easy to do. But if we would develop something that is still in the boundaries of the planet, because you can make something incrementally better through innovation that somebody has developed in the 80s because of new tech, new ideas, of course, that's easy. But is that still good enough to, not consume more of the resources that we do not want to get consumed? So not everything bio is necessarily better only because it's biology. Many processes and technologies we have developed are really good the way they are. Sometimes our human behavior or other processes that needs to be changed. So we look at absolute sustainable planetary boundaries. And if you then think climate change, a lot of people think, climate change. It's much worse than that, right? Because climate change is not the only problem we have. Novel entities, biodiversity loss, nutrients out in the soil, water and land use. So actually it's pretty dark. And it's quite gloomy. So we need to do something about it. That's why I assume you guys have also chosen maybe I take action and do that. So DTU has a couple of departments that actually all work on biosolutions, because that's the thing. A biosolution doesn't need to be a fermentation. It can also be a compound that is changing, for example, the way how a coupling of a certain gearing works, or a certain lubricant that's used in a motor, or some material that's used in an automotive. Anything that enables and advances the technology that we might already have could be a biosolution. Yes, we need to consider that. We need to replace technologies and process in the proper way, but we also need to make the calculations if it's the right thing to do, because it's not always only about technology. So if you're interested about DTU, you can come from different points of view, like here at Harvard or at MIT, where engineers and STEM scientists work together. Right? We converge our know-how and technology, because sometimes it's maybe born in chemistry but needs to be applied in an automotive engineering approach or a mechanical engineering approach. So we have seen a bit of the slides. So I have a few ideas I want to trigger you on before I bring this over to you. So yeah, we know that we can quantify things out there on how difficult it is, right? For example, how much gigatons of CO2 we are emitting every year. That's pretty dark. But to be honest, do you have an idea what that means? What does it mean, a few kilotons more? It's very abstract. It doesn't, that sounds a lot, and it gets more. And people start storytelling maybe about it. So I asked you, Davos, these guys here and gals leading our world, how often do you think the word climate change was mentioned at Davos from these people? How often? Come on, a number. One time? Exactly. One time. And do you know by whom? I guess you know by whom. Who kind of said that's actually the biggest scam. Nobody speaks about climate change anymore. We speak about energy security, about supply chains, about resilience, about growth, and how, to defend ourselves, isolate, onshore production, all this stuff. That's what we talk about. Well, that was different a couple of years ago. So that's an issue. Because if you look at World Economic Forum, for example, and ask what are people afraid of, what's going to challenge me tomorrow? The 2-year time frame, that's to the left. That's like, geo-economic confrontation or societal polarization, inequality, cyber insecurity, all this stuff. But if you look 10 years from now, when it gets abstract and we have different time scales, you think of, climate change, biodiversity loss, all these things. So we have a challenge. The challenge that the scales we think are short, the scales that matter are long. And our societies are not fit for that. That's a problem. We cannot really sell that either to our legislation, even to our friends and family, maybe even to ourselves. It's pretty difficult to make this commitment. I just switch over that. So the facts are there, yet there is people out there who are denying the facts. And I just put a prominent person here, but that is all over society. People are arguing against the facts. And that is a problem for scientists and engineers. Why is that? And how do we face that? Because we know, but the numbers are right. I made the calculation, right? But they don't want to hear it. So how do we deal with this? So I feel we face layers of mismatch. Because if you think of humans, right? We have been evolved for immediacy. But our problems are delayed, actually. I think that we evolved for local cooperation. Think of, tribes of foragers and hunters. That's where we come from. But our problems are global. We don't think necessarily in a global scale. We think communities, clans, families. That's how we humans are. We evolved status competition, but our problems require a restraint. We developed institutions that don't work on these cycles, these time scales we have. That's an issue. And I think most paradoxically, we have invented foresight, and actually we are vulnerable to it because we now realize that foresight is not enough. We can see it. Destruction is coming. But what the heck do we do about it? We have some solution. So, imaginative science kicks in. So I'm a process engineer. I've built companies. I've made all of that. And I'm just one of thousands out there. So obviously we can do that. And yet, where is the big change, right? Are we just too stupid for that? Where's the issue? I think the defining challenge is not know-how. It's not science. I think we know. I think it's also not capabilities. I think we can do these things. We can develop new technologies. I think our issue is actually that we need to find ways to interact with people. So one of our approaches here, we would like to inspire you if it comes to climate action, actionable hope, is that you might consider that it's not only about technologies and business cases and commercialization and all of that. Maybe you need to take responsibility for communicating and disseminating this science, that you get in contact with people who are not normally in this space. And how do you do that? Because most of us, let's face it, are not used to that. Many of us are geeks and nerds and introverts who want to work in a certain environment and don't want to stand on a stage and explain something. That's really not us. So we need partnerships, partners like Charles. So I will leave that over to you and give you one inspiration how this could look like. This is a website we have developed, a media gamified engagement room where we have identified a target group of late teenagers. How do you make them interested about STEM in these days? Oof, difficult, right? So we thought, okay, we need to develop something like an interactive web platform where science and other things are actually embedded, and where actually essays that Charles has been writing, we will give you a little insight later, are part of. So if you want to check that out and play around with it, we have in different languages, English certainly also, and please check out Microbe Explorer. And with that, I will give over to you, Charles.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does this work? Aha. Okay. Hello. My name is Charles Moore. I am a independent philosopher. I think I'm probably the only one in the room that is an independent philosopher. I spent many years in academic philosophy before I decided to try to start my own search and quest for wisdom, and to share what I learn with as many people as possible. And so with that, having promised our friends at the Salata Institute that we would say how we got into the work that we do, I get to say that I have the weirdest path to sustainability, right? Or the most circuitous, right? Because whereas many people who've spoken here before say, oh, I loved camping when I was younger, and then I started to reconnect with nature when I learned engineering and so and so. I actually got to sustainability through philosophy and through my strange need to spend time on what is this? Why are we here? What is going on? And it's so much pressure on us to move along quickly. Don't linger too long on those kinds of questions, but they are just irresistible to me. And the word philosophy means love of wisdom. And wisdom is different from knowledge. It's different from science. Wisdom is an ancient Greek idea about how to live well and how to put together all of the different modes of experiencing the world, scientific and rational, and things that we don't know and things that we don't even know we know, right? And kind of mash them together into a worldview. That is philosophy, and it's something I believe everyone does, okay? So you all have a philosophy, you all have a worldview, you all have some way of trying to make the best of your life. And what I do is I spend a lot of time obsessing about that and how to do that as best as possible. Now, the thing about wisdom and this quest to live well and to share that with others wherever possible, that is so irresistible, is that if your mode of living is to destroy yourself and your species, that's not very wise, right? So one naturally gets drawn to sustainability and the questions of things that we know are happening and will happen. And then once you're in that world, it just seems so strange that there are these others who challenge that. And so sustainability was something that I was naturally led to, and which I believe is just part of wisdom, right? It has to be. It has to be that you want to live in a way that sustains yourself and your species, right? So I have I've developed this imaginative way of trying to understand sustainability and to promote it. And when you have a philosopher looking at a very high level on the situation we're in, you naturally, if you're someone like me, you say, okay, wait, what is this problem? What's the problem? Why is there this disconnect that Andreas spoke of earlier between what we are very confident about and what ordinary people believe, right? And to me, that's the problem. The problem is, why is that? And because we have science, which again is different from wisdom, but it gives us so much of an understanding of what's going on. So why don't ordinary people believe that? Okay, now this is where we turn the mics off and I say, damn it, right? We, as scientists, as people who understand what is going on, we do not share our understanding of this with a wide enough group. It is not part of what it means to be a scientist, a sustainability person. It is not typically part of that you communicate this as widely as possible. And to me, that's also not wise, right? That's also, there's something weird about that when you hear it, right? So it's like, why don't we do this? So I developed a passion for going to scientists and saying exactly that. Why don't we do something about this? And I developed a storytelling paradigm that allows us to take these complex topics and boil them down into an attractive, enticing story that a very wide audience can understand, and then just plug into their worldview, right? It's not a story about something that isn't real. It's something that they can then use as how they understand the world. And so what I am trying to do is offer one solution to this problem, right? The solution, there may be other solutions where we can bridge this gap of what we know scientifically and what the general public believes, all right? So what I want to do is I want to get generalists to visualize sustainability. I want them to have a sense of wonder about the world that they're in that ignites their passion and their imagination, and that makes it back to the earlier points we were talking about, that it just seems impossible that we wouldn't be working together to achieve sustainability. Okay, so that's what I want to do. And let's go as far as we can with this. So how do we do this? As part of my paradigm, why don't we hand the mic over to nature itself and let nature speak to the human race? So this is the project I've been working on under 2 grants from the Novo Nordisk Foundation for 6 years with Andreas. And we are trying to start a dialogue between the human race and the natural world that they're in. And it's a dialogue that makes you feel a sense of awe and wonder. At the same time, you hear a message about how you can preserve this amazing place that we're in. The way imaginative science works is that you start with scientific facts. You start with scientific facts and you make a summary of it. You then try to find analogies to these facts that are part of ordinary human life. Okay, so it's something most people will recognize as an analogy. From there, we do a kind of dramatizing of this. Let's make a story out of this, right? And let these various points of view in nature speak. And the last part of this, which is quite novel to imaginative science, is that we ask you all to take the point of view in nature of these unusual places, right? And in this case, beings. So that's the idea. And every once in a while, someone jumps up, oh, you're personifying, you know. It's an art form, right? It's an art form, and we are not saying that the world literally is saying these things. We're trying to get it to be part of our culture that we do this, all right? The other thing that's really important to us is that there's something in it for everyone to do this. And I think that since you heard me express my frustration earlier with scientists and others who know the facts but don't work on this, there are some very specific things that are good for you for doing this. You get skills in big picture thinking, all right, and you learn to communicate to a very broad audience. These are super helpful for grant writing. So there's a lot in it for scientists to even do their work if they do this kind of outreach. And we're talking 1%, 2%. How much do you need to do to affect change? And then for the general public, what's in it for you is that you learn about the way the world is, and you don't live with your head in the sand, and you have you're brought in to experience wonder, which is a fantastic emotion that builds resilience and is correlated with happiness. So there's a lot in it for everybody to do these kinds of, to try to get a new art form going where people are exploring nature in this way. Now we get to where I fulfill the end of my promise to say how I got here. And I said these things to Andreas and his colleagues. I said, we've got to do something, right? We've got to do something about this. And I'm very fortunate to have gotten a couple of grants to do this and to have met Andreas. They're the ones that said, okay, we're going to do this. Let's try this. And if you're a scientist or you've ever been to a poster session and you look at that poster, you must be thinking, that is weird, right? Because you know what this is 50 other posters where they're breaking down the biochemistry of something or the physics of something. And then there's this guy who is telling stories about what all these other things are doing. And so I really, and this was such a blast, it was just such a blast to do this. And so now I want to give you two examples of this storytelling paradigm. We're here at a time where we're just getting started with this in many regards. We have some products, but we wanted to share a couple of those with you. One is that I worked on with a different team than Andreas, who were our scientists in microbial foods. And they are all working on a shadow version of the question before. Why do we know these things, but we don't do these things? And they're saying, we can make sustainable foods, sustainable proteins, sustainable, delicious and nourishing foods. But people are skeptical about foods made by microbes. But why should they be, right? Should they be skeptical about foods made by microbes? So we applied the approach of imaginative science, and we handed the mic over to the microbes, and we asked ourselves, what would these microbes say to the human race about this situation? That they know that we can make these foods, and then they think, oh, I don't want to eat microbial food, but they eat us all the time. Okay, so this is now a video that I'm going to show you that takes just 2 minutes. And here again, we want these microbes to become influencers. We want to make products that can go viral and can reach a lot of people and help them change their minds. So,
we are the microbes who feed you. Picture what you ate and drank during the last 24 hours. Food, drink, medicine, and anything else. Use your imagination to visualize all of it together in one large bowl. Now visualize the plants, animals, and other life forms who made or became each item in your bowl. As you take inventory of all the living beings involved in your nourishment, we want to ask you 3 questions. First, how do you imagine the living microbes in the bowl? Did you include us, the single-celled bacteria, fungi, and other life forms? We live on almost every surface on Earth, including what's in the bowl. We also live in fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and miso. We can help your health and digestion as we pass through. So visualize us as special friends who are always excited to share a healthy meal with you. Second, when you visualized the living beings who made or became your food, did you also include what we microbes made for you? Do you know our role in making bread, cheese, coffee, chocolate, vinegar, soy sauce, and in brewing your beer, wine, and other drinks? And with our marvelously diverse genes and traits, we can make new foods from anything you give us. So visualize us as your personal chefs who make foods you already know and can make foods you have yet to discover. Third, other than the microbes who directly feed you, how do you imagine the microbes who indirectly feed you by nurturing every ecosystem on Earth? Without us enriching the soil and serving as the bottom of the food chain, no other living beings would survive. In this sense, we contribute something to everything in the bowl. So visualize us also as the master gardeners of the earth that feeds you. Unfortunately, your current food system is not sustainable, and so the earth we garden is gradually becoming less capable of feeding you. To reverse this trend, become curious about the scientists and chefs working to develop new and sustainable foods with our help. Your meals become more interesting and flavorful when you reimagine us there, as friends, as chefs, and as the gardeners and sustainers of the earth that gives you life.
Okay, so before we go on to the next example, I hope that seems compelling to you, that if you might be a person who would feel grossed out about eating microbes or something, a microbial food, that you would be confronted with a very clean argument. We would say, look, we're in the food you ate. We're in your body. We cover everything. We're already in there. That's number one. We work well with you. And number two, we made a third of what's on your plate, probably. That's one estimate of most things people eat. A third of it's made by microbes. And third, we sustain everything else on planet Earth. So we're far from foreign to you. A second example that we want to offer you is the microbe E. coli. When I went to Andreas and I had proposed letting E. coli tell the human race what it thinks about how we're behaving and what it can do to help us achieve sustainability, he was all in and we just went for it. So we have, I wanted to start by describing the work we did a little bit, and then we're going to read for you. But I wrote a series of essays, and one of them that is in the 5,000 word range is on Andreas's website that he mentioned earlier. It has been translated into several languages. So we have Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, we have Spanish, and we have German, translated by Andreas himself. And so we also, I'll come right next to that. And we also have an expanded version of that, which is what we refer to as a mini book. So it would be a small book format that we also intend to make video about and to have all kinds of other resources available for people to consume it in all the different ways they consume information. And that means we have 30-second commercial spots from E. coli. Okay, so this is the idea for this grant. And what I would like to do now is just give you a sneak peek of where this effort is at with its commercial wing, which is that following the completion of these grants, I've started a company which is a well-intentioned company attempting to promote wisdom and through these media. So we are currently developing and publishing the work I did with Andreas and his colleagues. We have our first book is where a truffle comes out of the ground to speak to the human race, here again for the first time, and to explain how The truffle itself is, of course, just a tiny part of a larger organism underground that connects different root systems and shuttles around sugars and nutrients and so on, and offers us a model of sustainability. We also have the yeast that brews your beer and bakes your bread and all that, comes out and speaks to the human race, and tries to explain how it has been a mentor to the human race in 6 different ways. And of course, that also has a sustainability theme at the end, because the yeast is the primary model organism, eukaryotic model organism in Biosolutions and biotech. So it also gets to tell the human race what it thinks of us and how we can work together to fix these problems. We also have the E. coli product that Andreas and I will give you a sample of. And then there's also a book coming out where the microbes in and all over your body will speak to you and explain what they do for you. They will talk about their genes, and they will talk about the likely future of medicine, which will involve new variants of them working with you. So Andreas and I are going to give a sample of our E. coli. I just hope to challenge you. I hope to challenge you. If you do some work that is scientific or whatever it may be, will you communicate on behalf of nature? Will you spend 1%, 2%, 5% of your time working on this issue? Okay, this is an issue. We have to solve this, right? We have to get the ordinary people to understand and welcome behavior change. That's what we're after. And I know the answer is yes, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's it. And now I wanted to just make mention of the fact that Andreas and I and this project, we have it in our mind to do multimedia, and by multi we mean multimedia, right? And just do every kind of format we can get this message into. So like, I don't even use social media, but we have all these little videos and audio recordings that we're going to try to get out there, and to my great surprise, one of the media that my colleague Andreas has taken upon himself is the live-acting verbal media of E. coli. And so what we wanted to do today is it will be the first time ever that E. coli speaks at Harvard University. Yeah. All right? And what we will do is, following Andreas, who is, by the way, a volunteer who goes around to different groups and schools and does this performance that you're about to hear, okay? And I'm new to that. I don't usually go around and act, so I'm going to do this for you with Andreas. And what we decided we'll do is we'll take our E. coli book, and I will read the prologue, where you hear the very first words from E. coli, urging us to sustainability by the end. And then what Andreas will do is he will take 5 points that E. coli would like to make, so would like us to understand about it, and that will end with a sustainability push. Okay? So, are we ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay.
Have you guys heard from E. coli? Yes or no? Because that's great. If you haven't ever heard of E. coli, that's perfect. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Allow me to introduce myself. Or should I say, reintroduce myself, since you and I are already quite close, if not inseparable. In fact, it's difficult, even paradoxical, to try to imagine yourself without me. I'm in your body right now. You want me there. I play a small but important role in your complex biology. I assemble molecules you need, but cannot make on your own. I even contribute to your mood. Yes, we are inseparable, but not just because I live within you. I'm also far away from you, doing things and making things that you need to live life as you know it. And when you seek answers to the most perplexing scientific questions, I am one of the most common sources you turn to for help. I have shaped your history, and you have shaped mine. The more you know about me, the more you realize that you need me to be your best self. I am the life form commonly referred to as E. coli. You've probably heard my name before. I am the most famous bacterium of all time. Despite this, I'm usually misunderstood in the popular media. Yes, your news people, who so often focus on what's wrong with the world, frequently associate me with something bad. Danger, illness, even death. But if you really knew me, you would know that this is not fair. You would know that this misleading characterization overlooks the marvelous story of my long and fruitful relationship with you. So let me introduce you to the real me. Let me introduce you to the way life works from my point of view on the world. Then you will recognize the real me all around you, even somehow as part of the real you. I now offer 10 statements. These brief statements summarize what I and a group of accomplished human scientists think you should know about me. And now Andreas will take 5. Is that how we're going to do it? We're going to take 5 of those 10 statements.
We take 5. Great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Mr. Moore. E. coli. I've spent so much of my life with E. coli. If you want to get to know me better, let's start with the following 5 points. About my life form and about what I can do for the human race. First point. Although the coli part of my name means I live in your colon or large intestine, my journey through your digestive tract is only a small part of my actually epic migration that takes me into and through the soil, then on the plants that grow in the soil, and then on and in the insects that, and all the other animals that eat those plants, then anything that eats these plants and animals, including you, and then back out when you go, and then back into the soil again, and around, and again, and again, and again, and again. So please do not think of me as just in your colon, or as a small or unimportant. I blanket everything. I'm huge. I'm a life form like mine are indispensable to all life on Earth, and including your life. And because I can live on so many different places, I'm adaptable to life in your labs where you work with me to unlock the secrets of life. Second point. I grow exponentially. With proper nutrients and conditions, my cells are among the fastest growing in nature. I grow so fast, so you need to reimagine how one cell divides into 2. It's the fastest growing in nature opportunity. Even as I copy my DNA to grow a second cell, the new DNA is being copied again so that another new cell is already popping out. My very nature is growth on top of growth. And because I grow so fast, I can make a big impact in a short time. Third point. I use my genes the same way you use yours to cook up the molecules that do things in living cells. And since I have genes you don't have, you invite me to live in your colon, hoping that I will use my genes to do things you could otherwise not do, such as breaking down certain foods and nutrients. Fourth point, I evolve way faster than you. Unlike your DNA protected in a nucleus inside your cell, my DNA is open and constantly changing. It's in my nature to take up new genes floating around in my environment and also share my genes with other cells. This allows me to evolve new traits very quickly, rather than waiting for a new generation like you humans. My fifth and final point is that you and I can save the world. How? Well, by bringing the previous 4 points together. Since I'm common and easy to find, since I grow rapidly, since I take on new genes and traits naturally in all my cells, and since I use these genes to make molecules you cannot make yourself and solve challenging problems you cannot solve yourself, you have in me a friend and partner who can adopt and produce the molecules and materials you need to bring yourself and the world into balance, especially when some of your bad decisions have brought your environment out of balance. Yes, I can help you learn the most important thing that you have not yet figured out, namely how to live in balance with planet Earth. I can help you get off fossil fuels by making sustainable foods, medicines, fuels, materials, and by showing you how biology works. When you work with life rather than against it. If you fail to achieve sustainability and eventually go extinct, well, I will still be here, as I have been for billions of years. But it will be more interesting if you survived. Don't you agree? So let's work together, evolve together, to preserve and sustain the marvelous world we share.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, that's all we got for you today. And we're going to hang around, so
Yeah.
please talk with us. And also,
Maybe you have questions, huh?
would you like to? Yes, let's do questions. Do you want to do questions?
Because that was, I assume, a bit different of what you... I'm not sure how often you do that. I'm pretty sure this is rather rare. Is that something that feels, inspiring or connecting you? Is that something, where you have maybe never thought that science or technologies or things that you do are actually having this link in how to communicate it, maybe find different ways? Because we all consume media or things that interest us in different ways, through music, to food, to its emotions, right? And we humans are narrative people. I mean, difficult to tell people to become passionate about a graph showing CO2 carbon emissions rising. It's important, but it doesn't make anything, right? I'm curious about that. Do you have any comments or questions for us? Please.
I'm in psychology, so my field is also kind of, sometimes far from STEM research and sustainability. I actually study how to encourage people to do behavioral change, to be in line with sustainability and those things in children, in adults.
Excellent.
And so this all, I'm really happy to see how you are also considering that piece, because I feel many times when we talk about sustainability, the funding goes to the science or the physics of things, or how can we develop new technologies, but behavioral change is not always considered.
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy to see that you're also considering that. And yeah, I feel like I've never seen something like that. I've done research trying to see whether like personifying or anthropomorphizing nature make people more concerned about it, and we have found that it does.
Wow. Cool.
But also I was thinking that this kind of goes back to what indigenous peoples, sometimes some indigenous communities already are doing. Like I feel like they are also really good at connecting with other natural living things and like imagining what they
We
are.
kind of lost it through our technology world. Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel it's also nice to see like how we can also be influenced by those views and like use them to promote behavior. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. That copies a bit like when, you know, people from a very different background come together to try out something maybe new on that. Because, I mean, again, you're likely at the beginning of your career. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years, and things are not moving as they should be moving. So we need to find different ways. I mean, just more papers, just more articles, it's just the same bubble of people who anyhow know what we're talking about. So it's preaching to the choir. Well, that's not going to change. We need to talk and interact with the others outside of our bubble, right? Even if it feels a bit awkward because you don't get that trained in school, as you just said. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I had a question about how you might go about choosing which stories to tell. I think based off of what you told us, like E. coli might not have been the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah, so true.
I'm just curious, like,
good question.
thinking about my work and how something like this might be applied. And
May you share what are you working with?
I study the effects of nitrogen fixation.
All right.
Right. So it seems very niche, but
No.
but so is E. coli. So
Oh yeah. Not niche. I feel quite a big area.
Well, I can speak to part of that. Is that the idea for imaginative science is that we're going to cover as much of nature as possible with stories from the point of view of that being. And when I went to work with Andreas and his colleagues working primarily in biotechnology, they were wanting to tell the story of these microbes. So we got the idea of having the yeast speak, having the E. coli speak. And so it came in part from how we came together to do that.
If you would have been there, maybe we would have been spoken about an agricultural approach, right?
Yeah. And nitrogen fixation is features in the truffle essay, as you can imagine, with the fungal networks underground. And but we didn't do a topic just like that. But I think anything's possible. So.
Yeah. Things like, as you described also in your paradigm, the whole idea, of course, is it's based on science, right? I mean, the whole idea is that this is deep science and knowledge of experts in all their fields. And this is just a biotechnology angle. You can pick other technologies as much, of course. I mean, if you want to speak about quantum technologies, good luck with that, for example, right? I mean, I need quantum. Or AI and other things, right? I mean, how to bring complex topics that experts know about, but the rest of the world has no clue about it. And they might also not want to know because they feel like this. But if you build these analogies, as you showed, and then bring it into people's real life, in their living rooms, like part of their Disney stream, right? If they see that, then people take notice. And I think this is really, it's needed. But at some point we need to start, and there might be a group of interested, let's say, scientists who work on a specific topic, and then say, okay, and that's the thing about Denmark, right? We have, with an international crowd, right? As you saw, we have from all over the world. It's just Denmark has created this fantastic place where we can do that. We're doing higher-end science there. but we also realize we might need to take a different route and just not only writing our peer-reviewed articles and doing this and that. That's what we all do. So that's a bit of the thing.
Thank you. And do you have an outreach angle with your nitrogen fixation work?
No, I don't, which is, I think, why I'm kind of curious about how this might apply, because I think, I certainly recognize that there's a science communication problem, and, I don't know if I'm not trained in the tools to necessarily solve that problem.
And I think you are not alone. Right? So most of us have no idea. We are not trained. We don't know how to approach it. We might be shy, introvert, or simply not. We do not even know how to approach it. It feels awkward or cringe even, right? So because that's not where we originally maybe started to do STEM or these type of things or other technologies. So working with people in communication or artists is, well, we know them because we consume them likely in our private time anyhow, listen to music or eat great food or read books, right? We do that. It's very natural to us.
Yeah. And I usually do it in a loving but direct way. And I say, because I would say that the most common thing I get from scientists when working through this, by the way, it's not a cakewalk. Not everyone is like Andreas and wants to jump up and do this. Many people think, oh, I don't do this communication, somebody else does it. And the most common thing I hear is, I am not trained for this, right? And so I've gotten that so much over these 6 years that my approach to it is to say, well, if you won't do it, who's going to do it? And how about this? If I can make it easier for you and work with you, and you can give 1% of your time and maybe a few bucks from your grant or something, let's do it. And so this is the whole idea of building up imaginative science to where there's a lot of people working on it, a lot of diverse people doing all kinds of different things, and we overcome the fact that we are trained in a very left hemisphere style, right? And but the right hemisphere is also very helpful to have. So that's my challenge. Would it work on you?
I'm curious. Yeah, for sure.
That's great. Come on, you're curious. Yes, please.
I guess I'm wondering, the foundations that you worked with to get the initial funding to start these projects. I'm wondering if you're trying to present some of the really awesome products that you've come up with to try and suggest that they formalize the need to do this science communication part as a part of their grant making
Amen.
process.
Yeah. Hello, Salata Institute, right? Are we going to make it part of what we do that someone's doing this? And believe me, I've tried, but and I believe it will happen. I believe it has to happen. What is your suggestion? How should we do it?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think I completely agree. I think science communication is so important and so often overlooked or seen as more of a public service that a scientist can do, and less of an integral part of your job. It's not necessarily something that when one's going up for tenure, they'll look at the little ad spot videos that you came up with, and so I feel as much as I think that doing it as a public service is still a really valuable thing, if we want to try and have this really broader reaching impact, I think formalizing it as a requirement is going to make it really important. Because I think the argument that you have, you're not formally trained in it, is very fair and very true. But I also feel throughout the course of my PhD, I had figured out how to do so many things that I wasn't formally trained in because I knew I needed to do them in order to get this thing done. And I think that saying that no one's taught me how to do this, so I can't do it. There should be more avenues to learn all of these skills, but I think also formalizing it as a necessary part is important.
I love that, because I think the fact that I'm standing here with you and with these colleagues is partly luck. It's an accident. I mean, the Novo Nordisk Foundation just went for it, and Andreas and his colleagues went for it. So, and here we are. I really hope we can turn this into something like formal requirements for work. Will you write the letter and I'll sign it, or and we'll go over and make a presentation together?
Charles is here in Boston, right?
I live in Boston, by the way.
We're in Copenhagen.
Yes.
Charles is here. So very, very reachable.
Yes, I forgot to mention that.
And Pia is actually working
Yes.
at Harvard, right?
Yes.
So
my wife.
I appreciate the question, and of course sometimes you wonder, why does it need to be these foundations, sometimes very wealthy private foundations, who are doing that? Why is that not part of our public curriculum, for example? As much as we are now having innovation in engineering, innovation in science, which is now mandatory to have, kind of because you need to be thinking, innovative, and so on. For example, in engineering, we have to do that. Why do we not also have to do understanding on how we communicate properly? And there are many things can be learned, and I think of the new tools that are coming up there. I mean, it hasn't been easier. I mean, not replacing Charles, but I'm just saying, if you want to, use other type of tools that help you train yourself and become adept in that on storytelling, you can certainly do. I think the touch points are still challenging. How do we get to people? How do we get in contact with people who are not in our bubble? Because then we know we can go to these places where we meet them. But how do we get people here in Harvard Square just walking past by, or downtown Boston, or somewhere in Copenhagen, to listen to us? I have no idea. Just go on.
Right. Or in China, or in South
China, wherever.
So
sure, of course. Yeah. Well, thank you for your questions and your interest. I hope you will remember, and maybe somewhere in your walk of life, maybe stumble across something like that, or somebody else, and give an artist a hand.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.